All right, welcome everyone for the last session of the day. Hope that you're not tired, still excited. Hope that you enjoyed the day so far. My name is Laith Adel. I'll be talking today about the Microsoft 365 platform, obviously in the project control sense. And I would like to basically start with the title, the Integrated Project Control Platform, which what we call at EPM Partners PMO 365 is the brand that we created around project controls or project management using the Microsoft 365 platform. So I would like to spend a couple of minutes just really talking about this integrated and platform. So I'm not going to show you today a specific, well, I'm going to show you a few applications, whether it's a schedule application or a cost management application or whatever the application might be. But the focus today is not on a specific application per se and the function that an application can give you, but the whole idea of how you can get a number of applications integrated in order to excuse me one second. In order to have a platform where the data is basically talking to each other to give the organization, be it a PMO or a program management function or whatever it might be, a project management controls function, an integrated visibility for the project or projects, program or programs. So again, just keep those two words in mind, integrated and platform. This is what I'm going to try to show you today. I'm not going to spend too much time on the deck. I'll try to go and demo, and I'll embarrass myself a few times, but I'll try my best. So, any project controls person, project manager, so this person here, faceless, is a project controls person, be it the project manager, a scheduler, someone who's basically looking after a project or a program, or in fact a number of projects, portfolio of projects if you'd like. And we know that they will be interacting with, well, first, different stakeholders. They might be interacting with, if it's a project manager, they might be interacting with the schedulers or the contractors. If the project has been awarded to a prime contractor, and subcontractors can be also in play. We have also finance people, people who are, would have some visibility in terms of the finances of the project or the program and so on. So we have a number of stakeholders, internal and external. The engineers, all the way to the people who actually execute the work. So what does that mean? Well, what does that mean in terms of technology? So then you start, having things like Word documents start appearing, whether it's a project initiation or, I don't know, a draft scope of the road or the building or the bridge that we're building. And then comes Excel sheet for cost estimation and bill of quantities or whatever you might be having at the early design stages of any project. And then, the organization might or might not have ERP or financial tools to start storing, budgets and breakdown of the budgets by, superstructure, substructure, however you go about, breaking down your WBS items and, having that all stored in a centralized financial tool. And then you start dealing with the contractors who have either won the contract or are still working on estimating some of the cost or the financials or the pricing around the contract, and then will be more Excel sheets. And then maybe a P6 will be introduced at a certain point of time, development schedule, and I'm assuming that there's a good proportion of yourselves are schedulers, so P6 or Microsoft Project, whatever the tool that might be your choice, would be also in the mix, creating a detailed schedule with interdependencies and the alike. Whether you have an integrated cost schedule situation or you have your cost estimate sitting somewhere and your schedule sitting somewhere else, doesn't matter. Risks might be introduced. I mean, we heard the session before for the ones that attended that session about modeling risks and Monte Carlo simulation and the alike, and how we can have a proper analysis on what's happening in the project. Usually lives in a separate application, Excel based or not, doesn't matter, database or not, doesn't matter, but it's a different application. And then, an owner representative might want to say, well, but I want my schedule to be updated just with milestones on Microsoft Project. That's my tool of choice. And then you go and say, okay, well, how about we collaborate internally using, I'm going to use Microsoft here as an example, SharePoint for a collaboration platform. But you go, yeah, it's okay to collaborate internally with SharePoint, but we also interact with contractors. So you start using Outlook and emails. And might Akinex you put in the mix there if you are going to use Akinex in your project. And then you start using Teams if you are very tech savvy and your organization is into Microsoft platform. And all of a sudden, you get into, maybe you haven't even started the project yet, and there are so many applications already being used by different stakeholders, by different users, which creates different data sources. And then more Excel sheets appear, more Word documents, and more projects, and more P6, and so on, versions and versions, and files, and data sources, and enterprise applications. And that situation is the norm. Like no project, big program, or in fact a portfolio of projects would not have this case. It is impossible not to have this case. And I know that I hear a lot of people who are in our industry say, oh, you know, my company is crap. They have all those sources of data everywhere, and it's a nightmare to go and generate a report. Well, not only your company, every company on earth is facing this challenge today. You know, you can't go and say, well, we're going to have everything in a one streamlined application where everyone uses and they will live happily ever after. That doesn't happen. People will use different technologies, different applications, different tools. Therefore, we'll have, you know, scattered data, scattered pieces of information, and it's hard to have one consolidated, one source of truth. It's the fact. So the challenge is here, but yet we still want that. We still want that visibility. I mean, if you look at the slide here, you know, it's a very nice, very tempting, very marketing kind of type of dashboard where the information is accurate and real time, and a project manager or the owner or the contractor or whoever, the subcontractor or the prime contractor, or even lawyers, if you have a dispute with someone, can go to that platform and say, well, the original budget for the roofing of the building A was that much square meters, therefore you had to spend that much, you did not spend that much, you spent that much. Making examples here, right? But to have this one consolidated, one-stop shop, one source of truth is really hard. Really, really hard with all of those applications and so on. So Microsoft wants to deliver this. So Microsoft is not a project management, construction management, a scheduling company. It is not. And Microsoft Project, good scheduling application, and if you are familiar with things like Project Online and so on, good collaboration, good scheduling, good work management application, they are not construction, scheduling, you know, a very advanced, if you would like, contract management applications. They are not. Can they be? Absolutely yes. The answer is yes. In fact, many of the risk analysis tools that I've seen in the market, not the last one that I've seen today, were based on Excel. Excel is a great tool. But is Excel a project cost analysis or a risk analysis application? No, it's not. It's a platform. You can use it for your grocery shopping list, and you can use it for a proper Monte Carlo simulation risk analysis application. So within this idea, Microsoft then said, okay, well, we're not going to go and develop an application to do a very sophisticated, integrated, and complex project controls, project management software. But we have this challenge that we have different stakeholders, and they want to use their own tools. You can't go to the prime contractor and say, you know how using P6? Ditch that. I want this in Microsoft Project. You can't do that. You can't go to your, I don't know, the owner and goes, you know that Excel sheet where you maintain your cost estimate? It doesn't work. You have to have a database with all the rational kind of risk analysis built into it. You can't do that. So what we want, the requirement is very simple to, I guess, express, hard to implement. The requirement is, we would like the stakeholders to use the tools they want. You want to use Excel? Go and use Excel. You want to use P6? Go use P6. You want to use Project? Use Project. You want to use Outlook? Use Outlook. You want to use Akinex? And so on. So we want to enable, rather than fight them to say, well, your tool is crap, my tool is better than yours. No. We'll go and say, you as an individual, you as a team, use the tool that you want to use, the one that you're comfortable with. But it's still the organization, be it the project controls organization in any project, we still want that control over the project, that real-time accurate information, integrated, visible, so we can apply our project controls. So that's really the requirement. And Microsoft has came up with this very fantastic, well, it's not new, but when our kind of industry will be utilizing a fairly new in our industry, introduced newly to our industry, called the Microsoft Power Platform. Show of hands, who heard of Microsoft Power Platform? All right, few, it's good. So that's the answer, basically. We are going to use, and I'm going to show you today, and this is not a geeky, I'm going to go at the back end and write lines of code. I'm a civil engineer by trade. I don't know how to code. Well, I used to code, but I'm a civil engineer by trade. If I can do it, anyone else can do it, right? So I'm going to show you an easy user interface to give us that integrated project controls platform. So for you who are just newly introduced to it, it's called the Microsoft platform. I'm going to talk about it in terms of what actually the Microsoft platform is made of, but quite briefly, I would like to spend most of the time showing you. But by using the Microsoft platform, and we have a brand, we have a product called PMO365 that is then configured, developed this platform for project management, project control purposes. We call it PMO365. It is used to create that one-stop shop, one source of truth. Real-time, accurate. Again, those terms are very important. They are real-time. You don't go and say, well, give me the latest cost estimates versus the budget versus, the payment, progress payments by the contractor so I can plot my cash flow. It will take 2, 3, 4 weeks usually to get that one picture, one graph, really. We're talking about real-time and accurate. So how do I achieve that? With the challenge of different stakeholders are using their own applications. So look, the Power Platform, for those who are newly introduced to it, is made of really 3 components as application. They are called Power Apps, Power Automate, and Power BI. Power BI is for reporting, dashboarding, analysis kind of tool. But this is really the applications that we're talking about. But the heart of the Power Platform is something called the Common Data Service, or referred to in the kind of IT industry, CDS, the Common Data Service. This is really where the value is. This thing here, little thing here, but it's magical. And I'll show you and I'll prove to you how this is a very powerful piece of software for Microsoft. Now, Microsoft has introduced something called Project for the Web. How many of you have heard of Project for the Web? Yep, 2, 3. So you know Microsoft Project, the thing that installed on the desktop. You have a lighter version of it now on the web page. And I know that some of you have used or familiar with a thing called Project Online. If you're not, Microsoft has something called Project Online, and they do have a scheduling component on the web as well. This is not it. This is a third thing called Project for the Web. It's very basic. The schedulers of you will look at it and will spend like 2 minutes and say, this is not for me. It's very simple. It's very basic. I'm not going to use it. And that's fair enough, right? I'm not saying use Project for the Web, but I'm saying Project for the Web is an application that is built on that new thing called the CDS. So again, if you want to take one thing from today's session, just remember CDS, Common Data Service. If you want to Google it, if you want to research it, and understand what that is, because this is the platform for the integration. So Microsoft have built this thing called Project for the Web, build on the CDS, build on the Common Data Service. Now, an architecture might look like something like this. I know it's very technical, very geeky, but I will probably just spend a couple of minutes explaining why I wanted to show this today. Because you might have, this is the whole, different applications for different stakeholders in one slide. So you might have, people using Teams, Project Online, Microsoft Project Desktop, but the idea here, if you're using Microsoft or non-Microsoft application, SAP, Oracle, whether it's a P6 or another application, Microsoft on the right-hand side, non-Microsoft applications on the left-hand side, you can have Aconex added here. Aconex actually has an API that is, well, we hope in the next 2-3 weeks will be available on the CDS. So we can actually, we're talking to Aconex as we speak, but not finalized yet, but we are building a gateway to Aconex. And that then will bring all the data into this one platform called the CDS, and then we can have that visibility integrated, not only just in terms of reporting. That's not just a reporting platform. This platform then can put the data together and perform more actions to it. And I'll explain that in a minute. So there's a trial if you want. That's the website. You can go jump into our website and start a trial if you're interested. But let's get into the more kind of exciting stuff, which is, I know it's not going to look exciting at the beginning, but bear with me, right? So this is what we call the CDS. First of all, as you can see, I didn't install anything. It is available via the browser. I went there, and there, here I am, and this is called the CDS. Now, again, bear with me. I know you're not going to see applications yet, but bear with me just to explain to you why this is important. So I'll go to a place called Data, and I'll go to a place called entities, right? And let's say pick an entity called project, right? We will have a project, we will have a task, we will have a risk. All of these things can be called entities and stored in the CDS as an entity. Now, so let me go and search for the entity project. So in here, you'll see that I can store a whole heap of fields in relation to the entity called project. Budget, start date, actual start date, finish date, you name it. Call it attributes, call them fields, call them whatever you want, properties, but the entity is called project, yes? Now, just think of that entity called project and say, okay, well, I'll get the start and finish dates for this project from P6, but I'll get the cost from Excel or another Oracle cost estimation tool. Or I'm going to get my correspondence with the contractors around this project using an app. I'll call it, I don't know, ABC app. So the point is that the data that we see here, so if I go and say, show me the data of the projects, so it will show me a list of the data. Obviously, this is very simple, basic demonstration platform, so you'll see nothing here. But as you can see here, I have 3 projects, A, B, C. This project A could be created via P6. This could be created by project, and this could be created by Excel. The project budget for project A could be coming from an Excel sheet, while B could be coming from an SAP, or C coming from an estimation application on the web. Does that make sense? But I have one master list of all the projects using all the application that the other stakeholders are using, and it's stored into one place I'm calling the CDS. So then you decide what updates my milestones on project. Again, so project is one entity, but then we can take this concept and apply it to milestones. Okay, well, a project will have a number of milestones. How are they updated? Well, you tell me, is it a P6, is it an Excel sheet, is it a Microsoft project, or do you want me to develop an app for you on your tablet, and I'll show you how you do this through the CDS using Power Apps, to update those milestones? It's your call. So you start from the data rather than from the application. Then you work out the application. So you go, look, this project, because it's on this stage of construction, I don't want the milestones to be updated by the designers using their Excel sheet or Microsoft project. I want it to be updated by the P6 file that the contractor maintains. So even the project itself, we can connect it to different applications, depends on what phase of the project, where the project is at. Does that make sense? So you go, at the beginning, we'll get the main milestones from an Excel file, but once the contract is awarded and there's a sophisticated P6 schedule behind it, we'll then have P6 updating it for us, but maintaining it here, one common platform. So let me show you first, how do I then correct these connections, and now I update it, and how do I then manage the interface for my users. So number 1, connections. So this is where you start creating connections. And as I said, there are a number of gateways we develop. Well, Microsoft is building, every week almost, a new connection to a new API. So you think of an application, likelihood that you'll have an API here. A-Connect is not there. I keep on repeating A-Connect because we've been working with them for the last few months. But P6, you name it, Oracle. So you go, okay, I'm actually wanting to create a new connection for an Oracle database. You go, okay, I'm going to bring Oracle. I'm not going to connect anything yet, but you get my point. I want to connect to an Excel, even just an Excel. You go, okay, I'm going to connect to this Excel. It's shared on that place. Pick it up. And this is how you go creating connections. Microsoft Project is one of them, or Project Online. Project. Yeah? And so on. So what application do you want to connect to? It is as simple as I'm showing you. All the API integration work will be done by either Microsoft or partners like ourselves. And it will be available for the organization to create that connection. The project controls function in the organization will go and say, yeah, okay, fine, use your Excel sheet, but I'm going to connect to it. Just keep it in that shared folder. Keep your Microsoft project, keep your P6, keep whatever the data whatever application you're using as an individual or a team. Keep using that, that's fine, but I would like to have access to it. Right? I would like to bring it back to my CDS. So then we are delivering to the organization the control it needs. Right. So say you've done that. We connected, done the pipe work, everything, all good. So how do I then interact with these using my applications? Or in fact, I go, well, you know, I have all of this data coming from different applications. I would like to have one place to see all of the data where me as a project controls person to actually start interacting with it. Yeah, then we have this concept of apps. So again, let me just repeat this because this is really important. So you either go and use the apps, for example, the one that I was talking about, project on the web. So, and again, I don't know how many of you have seen this, but it's basically Microsoft project on the web. It's on the cloud using my browser. It's a scheduling engine. It's very basic. So those of you who are schedulers, you're going to look at it and you'll say it is very, very basic. So it's not meant for you. If you're a scheduler, if you want to create those very sophisticated critical path analysis, this is not for you. If you want to do PERT analysis, whatever it's called, this is not for you. This is for someone just want to put a list of tasks, create some dependency, assign it to people. Very simple, very basic. But the reason why I'm bringing it up, so let me just create a task. Task 1. Task 2. And so on. Because then this information I can then again bolt to my CDS and keep on using this application to manage my schedule, to manage my tasks, to manage my dependencies, but the data is sent to that CDS that I'm talking about. Or you use a P6, or you use whatever tool again. So you can use your applications. But what if you want one application to show you data from SAP and Primavera and Microsoft Project and the Excel sheet that we talked about, so then I can interact with all the data there in one place and even make actions. Like if I want to push a milestone that is in my schedule here in Microsoft Project for the web, but not using Microsoft Project for the web, I want to use one app because I want to see the impact on the cost estimation in the Excel sheet, for example, which I married into that CDS. So I'd like to come up with a new interface. This interface would not do it for me. The Excel sheet by itself wouldn't do it for me. I want to integrate the project schedule with the Excel sheet that I use in cost estimation in one interface with creating relationships between the data. So what I need to do first is I have to create relationships, and I'll show you quickly how you do that. You just basically go, let's say that you want to create a relationship between a risk and a cost item. We talked about it in the previous session, for example. Or a project with, I don't know, a contractor. So you go, all right, I'm going to create, this is the project, I'm going to create a relationship. And I want to create a relationship with contractors, list of contractors, and it's a many-to-one. Many projects can have, you know, the same contractor or the other way around, however you want to go about it. So I'll go and choose the entity that I created called contractor. I don't know if I have contractor here. I definitely have customer, I think. Let's go with company, for example. So I've created a relationship. So I have an entity called project, an entity called contractor or company, and I marry them together as a many-to-one. Well, that's good. But how do I interact with both those? And that contractor list is managed in Excel, and that project schedule is managed in my project on the web or PC. So again, whatever application that you're using. But you go, you know what? I need an application that interacts with both those entities at the same time. And we go, okay, well, there is no application that actually can show you what's happening in your cost estimation in Excel and project. You'll have to do it manually. So what I would have to do is create an application for you. So again, what I just said is true. Create an application for you. And if I show you how to create an application, it is very simple. So you go apps, applications. I've already have one ready here for us. So that's a project application. It's called model-driven, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Actually, so these are the lists. Actually, can you give me a second? I want to change to a different app. So, yep. That one, and these are the apps and project. So this is an app available, by the way, on tablet and phone as well. You go Power Apps, you download it through your Android or iOS, and you download it as an app called Power Apps. And then as you log in, you're authenticated, and this app will be available to you as a user. But, for example, summary is basic information of the project. You can edit them here or through the Excel that I've talked about. Cost estimate, that was actually linked to an Excel sheet. Let's assume it's an Excel sheet, right? While the tasks are linked to a P6 set of tasks. So I'm combining now, not only just integrating the application anymore, but actually can interact with them via a user interface that I develop for the specific user. So you want to update your P6 and Excel sheet and application X and application Y. Well, I'll bring it all for you in one user interface. I'll put your logo, I'll put your look and feel, the colors that you want, and then you can start interacting with those applications. Two-way, by the way. It's not just I'm updating the data here. It goes to the application and updated in the applications themselves. And then you can take this to one step further. So correspondence, for example, with the contractors. You go, okay, I want to have all the correspondence with the RFIs, the request for payment, or whatever it is, with the contractors into one place as well. Since we have this one common data platform, well, can we actually do that as well? Yes, you can. Not only you can do that, in fact, you can do that in a way that is supported on a phone, a tablet, and you give it to your contractor and say, please use this app to interact with me. If you have a progress payment, if you have an RFI, if I have a general kind of correspondence, use this app with me. Don't email me, use the app. So, and again, to create this, I'll show you how to create an app quickly, but I'll show you an app that we use for an existing client for their site inspection, for example. So you have those tabs, if you remember, the cost, the schedule, the risks, whatever you want to call them, and then they had an app called site inspections. But the site inspection is done by people on site, and they take photos and do the site inspection and send it back to the project manager. Used to be emails and Excel sheet and maintained and not centralized and so on. This app interacts with the CDS directly, and I'll show you this in a minute. But to create an app, you go literally create, and you go, I'm going to use an app. In fact, you can use a template. So site inspection is actually a template. There you go. And if I choose this app and I call it site inspection, that, whatever, and you go optimize it on a tablet, optimize it on a phone, whatever the case might be, you go create. And that will create the app for me. I can then modify it, and then I start connecting it to again, the data, and I say, look, the site is an entity called site, and it has the following information, and then I will make it available for the field resources to actually start filling out those site inspections. So look, I'm not going to go through the actual development of the app, but it's as easy as this. There is no coding. I'm not developing a code here. You do need to understand functions. So when a button is there, you need to go, okay, what this button does. If some of you have dealt with Access before, giving away my age, it is very similar to Access. But anyway, but you're not coding anything. And once you've done, you basically publish it. And it is on my phone. For the people who are interested to see it on a phone or a tablet, I'll show you this. But that's a site inspection app available on a phone, available on a tablet, and it will send the site inspection information, including taking a photo, if you wanted to, through the camera, which is, there we go, take a photo of you. And then you can include it into the app, and you go done, and that will be stored back, or use the GPS, the GIS kind of system to give the location of that report or that site inspection, and then again send it back to, you guessed it, CDS. In the entity, there will be a new entity called site inspection, or site, and then it will be linked to the project, and it will be there into the one interface that I've showed you earlier. Maybe there will be another tab here. You change the layout that you want, called site inspection, and it'll see them. Right? So again, I'm not showing you in-depth an application. I'm not showing you the usage of how to schedule something or to do cost estimation. What I'm showing you is Microsoft Power Platform, which is a platform that can be used for integrating applications that the different stakeholders involved in managing a project will usually use to create this one source of truth, one-stop shop, and it's true, including site inspections, mobile apps and tablet apps that people can take with them on their phones and tablets to enter information. Progress payments, one of our clients, is not an email sent anymore. It's not an Excel sheet that they have to fill out. It's an app. They give them the app and say, you want to deal with me? I'm the owner. If you want to deal with me, you want your progress payment as a contractor, subcontractor, prime contractor, there's an app. The app will give you a list of the projects that you're working on with me, It will tell you your progress payments in advance, what they are. You have to then click on them, claim the number. If there has a variation, you have to put the variation. It will create your certificate for you in there, and so on and so forth. It integrates back to their SAP. They use an SAP, where their finance people will say, yep, the project manager has authorized this progress payment, sorry. And the purchase order, or whatever the right corresponding WBS item, or whatever it is linked, all integrated via this one common platform that kind of marry all these entities together. So that's it really in terms of the demonstration. I know it's very basic. I know I haven't delved into the application. It's just that concept of an integrated platform that I wanted to share with you today. I believe we have 10, 15 minutes. Happy to demonstrate other things, but otherwise we'll open it to questions. Yes?
Just a very simple question. What is the primary key? For example, in Primavera, you have a unique ID, and say in Excel, where you have a cost, you'd have some kind of sale reference.
Correct.
So, I'm sort of the old school thinking about what is the primary key that joins the two together.
So every entity will have a primary key in the CDS, right? So very good question. So these are the keys that you maintain. So you can maintain as many keys as you want via, so the entity in this case is called account, for example. As you can see here, I have keys, right? So as I go and connect to P6 and Excel and whatever, I go and say from P6, the key will be, I'll add it here, I go add key. So when you talk to P6, this field is your key. When you go and talk to Excel, this field is your key, and that will be managed and maintained. Now, if Excel, then someone has to maintain it manually. Well, you can write a formula to create the keys for you. But you identify on the entity in the CDS what are the keys. As you connect to those data sources, you define the key for each individual one of them. Does that make sense? And you define it against the entity in the CDS. So you go, my connection with P6 is set up and linked via this primary key.
For the Primavera file, are we talking about an exported XML file that you're connecting to?
Yeah, very good question. So it is based on that technology, but you don't have to do the export to XML yourself.
You mean you can connect into the Oracle database?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, sorry, one last one. No. The documentation behind all this and the training and so on, what's the plan?
Yeah, so the Power Platform, keep in mind, the Power Platform is not a project controls, project management application. It is Microsoft Business Application Platform. So you can use it for clinics, I don't know, something, glass shattering application for business that changes the glasses for cars, whatever. So it is not project controls, project management application. If you want documentation about the Power Platform, then it's all over the internet. Just go Google Power Platform, and there's so many resources. Obviously, they're being updated all the time, but they are available by Microsoft on the internet. For specifically project control, project management, we haven't seen anything yet. Obviously, we're developing our own stuff, but there is nothing available for Microsoft yet.
How does it deal with the different cadences of the different systems?
Sorry, different?
Timing, cycle time. So SAP, you might have goods being received daily. That information is getting updated daily.
Yep.
Your schedule, you might only update it once a week, once every two weeks. So what's to stop a manager going in there and getting some inconsistent data? You've goods received this stuff, but you've not updated the schedule yet. How does it? Real time's great, but it all needs to be consistent data at a given point in time.
So I'm failing to understand why real time is not giving you consistent data.
You're only updating the schedule, say, once a week.
You only update it, yeah, that's fine. So,
but your costs are being updated daily because you've goods received stuff in SAP.
Yep, and you set up, so first of all, they are gates, right? So you don't have to do it real time. You can say, look, I will receive the updates from these data sources once a week, and it's going to be at that hour. You can definitely schedule the sync. It doesn't have to be real time. But also, the Common Data Service will have versions of the value within the field. And that's controlled via different mechanism. But let's say it's controlled by the project controls and say, all this data I'm receiving from all these data sources, I'm not going to actually put it back to the application unless I press a button, let's say, right? Or I do something, or it is Friday night. So you can literally have control over, you can still receive the data, but you won't publish it. It's called publish. You won't publish it until you're ready. So the calculation between different data sets will happen only when you publish, if you'd like.
I'm interested in how, with each contract suite, there are different processes for things. The example you used before was payment claims. Contracts often mandate a process for a payment claim to go in, which must be followed. So is the idea that when a project takes on this system, there's an initial establishment and setup phase which really tailors it towards the contract, and when there's a new contract through the life of the project, there's another sort of implementation piece?
Absolutely. So I don't know, are you familiar with Aconex? Have anyone of you used? So it's exactly like Aconex. So Aconex is, again, it's a software, it's an application, but it's a platform that you have to set up. Who's the prime contractor, who's the owner, and you set up, and then what are the payment terms, and all of those kind of stuff has to go into it as an implementation before, the different stakeholders. I mean, I've seen people use Aconex in the design phase, but usually it's the construction phase where Aconex, shines. And then you get all your payment terms are agreed on and all the details set up. So yeah, there will be definitely, and it's not only just the implementation required for the payment schedule and all the kind of legal kind of agreements around the contract itself, but even the governance process, the setting of the data connections. Yes, it's easy to be set up, but someone has to own the schema, the project controls function in the organization. You guys someone have to, each program, each project, if it's a big project, these portfolio projects that follow a certain governance model has to be set up in a way that makes sense. Having them connected is one thing, but then having the logic, which I didn't talk about, by the way, is something else. Just on that, the logic uses something in the Power Platform used to be called Flow, now it's called Power Automate. So you can literally create business rules. So for example, you have a claim. So you receive a claim. And you want to set up a clock to say, after 30 days, if the claim is not processed by the project manager, I want to send an SMS message or whatever, right? You can actually have those actions in the CDS itself. You can call actions from application that are not integrated in the CDS based on certain business rules. So not only just the integration, but the business rules to be set up, payment terms and the alike, is part of the implementation. But I would say that we've done this a few times now. The trickiest bit is not bringing the data in, it's to marry them together. So like a classic challenge that I've seen with all of our clients. So you go to SAP or Oracle or whatever the financial tool of choice is, and the WBS items are different than what the project manager has. There's some familiarity between the two. They are similar, but not exactly the same. And you go, well, there's no technology that will overcome this challenge. You'll have to always then think, okay, well, how am I going to marry this? Or the schedule doesn't have the same WBS code as your cost estimation table. Or your BOQ is different than and so on. So this kind of challenges about the logic of marrying the data together, I've seen it as the most challenging part of the job. But again, to have this platform and to see the challenge and solve it in a very easy way, I think is the value of this platform. You can see it, you can see the data and say, okay, I see discrepancies here. What should I do? How do I marry them? What's required? Go to my exec and say, look, this is how we were doing. This is wrong. We should get them together in a different way. Create a third-party table to marry them and so on. But the power of that platform, it enables you to do so. Last one?
Yep.
Yep.
Looks fascinating, and it's an interesting concept, bringing it all together. A lot of the systems you've talked about, a lot of them house a lot of data. Are there limitations on how much data it can retrieve and deal with? Yeah,
very good question. So there is a limitation in terms of how much storage you can have, but you can buy more storage. The way it's sold, by the way, it has been updated, so it's per user, per app, and that gives you the storage. There are two plans. You can have 50 megabytes, or I think 100 is the other one, I can't remember. But you can always buy storage. The problem is not with the storage. Storage is cheap. You can get 1 terabyte easily per app. And you pay, I don't know, like $10 or something a month or something. Storage is not a problem. It's the time the job takes. So when you're starting, especially at the first setup, it could take up to 2 days to get all your data. So what you want to do is you buy resources, not storage. Storage is cheap, resources are expensive. So what we do is we set up, when we do set up these things, we had a big set of resources at the beginning because we bring in the data the first time from all those applications. And really consume a lot of resources on the Azure platform, cloud platform, bring the data and then because they are expensive, then you bring the resources down and you go, well, now it's just a delta, just the changes between those data sources. So usually storage is not a problem, you can buy storage, it's the resources at the beginning to bring all the data from, those applications that is the problem. All right, well, thank you so much, hope that was useful, and yeah, hope to see you around.